Hello and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Conor McMillen. I'm an IFS-trained life coach. I was trained 10 years ago by the IFS Institute. Huge fan of IFS, both for my personal growth, my personal healing, and of course for the growth and healing of my clients. And this channel is all about helping people just like yourself learn how to implement some of the IFS protocols for yourself, on yourself, at home, in a safe and sustainable way. So let's jump right into today's video. Today we're going to be exploring what happens when we ignore one of our parts. So first we kind of need to understand what it means to ignore a part. If you're completely unfamiliar with IFS and you're experiencing an emotion, and you're attempting to suppress that emotion or push it down to hide it from yourself, from your conscious awareness, I would quantify that as ignoring. If you're familiar with IFS and you have been developing a certain level of self-awareness regarding parts, then it might come through to you in a different way. And how we would describe this in IFS would probably be something like a part of you is coming up with a message it wants to get through to you, and you have pushed it down, suppressed it, told it to go away, or just turned on blinders to it, just completely ignored it. So when we do this, now, sometimes you kind of have to do this, to get through life. There's not a perfect way to interact with our parts, but ideally we want to be allowing a space on a regular basis for those parts of us that need to communicate with us or with other parts of our system to have a platform to do that. And that's why something like a regular check-in with yourself is a really good idea. And I have a video speaking about how to form a relationship with that space such that your parts know that they don't have to come up and overwhelm you in the middle of a workday. They have a space that they can come to with you on a regular basis. So you can check out that video. So it's okay for us to have certain times where we're feeling something or we're getting a message from a part and we just it's not the appropriate time to fully go into it. That's okay, but I think if this continues to happen again and again, and we continually put off this emotion or this message, there's one of two things that generally happens. This part with this message or this part with this emotion is either going to expand so greatly that it will overwhelm you because it feels that it has to come through, it has to force itself upon you. And in that case, you would definitely be taken out of self and you would be overwhelmed. And obviously being overwhelmed by an emotion or by a part, it's generally not a very comfortable situation. Things can happen in those circumstances that later on we can have other parts that maybe have regret about or feel ashamed about, or have criticism and judgment about it. That whole setup, it's gonna happen to us in our lives. It already has, and it probably will in the future. So it's not necessarily about doing practices that completely avoid potentialities of challenge, but rather to be aware that these things can be practiced skillfully over time such that the impact that they might have in the future is less, and that we can better understand when those things happen and why those things happen. So if we ignore our parts for too long, then one option that will happen is that they will overwhelm us. The other option is that they will retreat and they will hide and they will suppress themselves. And this might sound like a nice setup for other parts of us that have judged these parts as being a nuisance to our system. Well, if they just went away, wouldn't that be a good thing? But this is the beautiful thing about IFS, is understanding that all of these parts are making up their own little ball of energy. in our system. And any time that we lose or we suppress or we confine a part, it means that we lose a piece of that energy. And we don't want to do that. We want to be inviting in this energy in an integrative way so that we can live the most abundant, full, and thriving life possible. And that doesn't mean that it's a life without challenge. It means that it's a life that feels bigger, greater, more empowering, and more impactful. Ideally in a positive way for yourself and for the rest of the world. So in extreme terms, the two outcomes from ignoring a part is explosion or suppression. And these are on either end of the spectrum. It's going to kind of depend on your system, and it's definitely going to depend on the part's characteristics as to which road they follow if they're ignored for too long. Some parts are much more patient than other parts, and you may be able to ignore certain parts or put them on hold for indefinitely. And some parts, not so patient. And you may not really be able to go very long with ignoring them. And this is part of the reason that we can become overwhelmed by firefighters. It is because we have not taken the time to tune into ourselves and given that safe platform for our parts to share with us their message in the moment. So as you've probably figured out already, this is helpful to understand for two reasons. The first reason is so that we can better understand why we might become overwhelmed or why we might find a part of us that has just suddenly disappeared or been suppressed or has been dulled. Understanding why that has happened means that you have created more self-awareness. More self-awareness is generating more self-energy, that calm, curious, and compassionate place that we want to attempt and strive to live from as much as possible. The other reason this is important to understand is so that we can do something about it preemptively. If we know that we don't want to be overwhelmed and we also don't want to lose parts of ourselves, then we need to do just what I suggested earlier, which is create a consistent space, consistent platform, a consistent round table, a consistent check-in, routine, and ritual with ourselves and with our parts that we can do on a regular and sustainable basis. And I would really recommend considering this as a 15-minute practice a couple times a week. It's not a huge commitment, but it is a commitment. And if you want more information on how exactly to do that, you can check out our other video on how to drop in. In addition, I want you to know that our website, internalfamilysystems.org, has some of the best self-led IFS programs out there. I fully stand behind them and I fully encourage you to check them out. Finally, if you want a free guided IFS meditation, all you have to do is click the link in the description box. It's going to take you to our newsletter sign-up form. You fill out that form and you will immediately get a free IFS meditation that you can try out today, and you can keep returning to it for the rest of your life. You're also welcome to unsubscribe from that email as soon as you get that free meditation. But of course, I encourage you to stick on to that email because we provide additional content that this channel does not provide in written form. And I really hope that that continues to be an additional helpful aid in your IFS journey, your self-growth, and your self-healing. Again, my name is Conor McMillen, and I will see you next time.